Okay.
Amen. We are currently journeying from Pesach to Shavuos. We're in a very significant week. There are 7 weeks in total. The 7 weeks correspond to what we call the 7 Sefiras, the 7 characteristics that define our primary character traits, the refractions and reflections of our material being, the shell in which our soul is housed. And this week is mechuven, it is corresponding to the trait of hoid, which we call, hoid literally means splendor. Really, hod has 3 meanings which are all intertwined and interconnected. Hod means splendor. I don't know how to translate that really, but I guess it means aura. When there's an inner light, there's a grandeur that shows and shines forth from a person. The soul is reflected through the body. There is splendor, there's tiferes, there's a pe'er. The tefillin are actually called a pe'er. Pe'ercha chavush alecha. The Gemara says the tefillin are called a pe'er. We bring a pasuk, the Gemara tells us, that reflects and tells us what the power of the tefillin on our head is. V'ro kol amei ha'aretz, all the nations of the world will see. Ki shem Hashem nikra alecha, that the name of Hashem is upon you. V'yoru mimeka, and they will fear you. They will see godliness shining through you. That's hoid, this splendor, this beauty. Now, hoid also, of course, we are familiar, means to give thanks. Hoidar. We are Yehudim. We have the name of Hashem embedded and ingrained in our essence. Yehuda is to be Moda, Hapam Oda. We have God's name and the Daled, which means, and this is the 3rd meaning of Hoidar. Hoidar, giving thanks, is only attainable through being Moda, admitting one's faults and shortcomings, through a process called Sefira, breaking the body, so to speak, in order for the soul to be able to release its energy, its light. So we have here really 3 concepts that are intertwined. We will talk about them a little bit more and how they actually complement one another as we move along. But we have in the Sefira, in the concept of hod, splendor, we have this inner light shining forth. It's almost like a intuitive beauty. You can have beauty, yofi, but you have hoid. Hoid, it's karne hoid. We talk about hoid almost as if it is an aura that shines forth. There's a tifer, there's something that almost there's a glory to the person. There's a pe'er, there's a hoid. And then we have an expression of Hidar, giving thanks. And then we have an expression also alluded to in the concept of Hod, which means to be Moda, to admit. It's embarrassing. We recognize that we're the Dalet. In the Yehuda, there's a Dalus, there's poverty. There's a sense of impoverishment. And we need, in order to bring out our beauty, that recognition that we have nothing, that we are impoverished, and that allows us to access, in conjunction with giving thanks and appreciation, that allows us to access the inner hoid. Now, in truth, if we think about it, these 2 concepts really are contradictory to one another. Because if we are feeling busha, embarrassment, we're admitting our shortcomings, we're moda, we are admitting all our chisroinos, then we would think that we are rather crushed, rather down. It might even lead to a sense of being morose, almost depressed and unhappy. And here, moda means giving thanks, celebrating, being happy. And it would seem to us that these two concepts are contradictory, but in reality, they actually combine with one another, complement one another. And if we think about it, that's really the source of Lag BaOmer. I'm going to share with you some ideas, some thoughts, some concepts, and we will try and tie the knot and see how everything comes together on Lag BaOmer. It's a very sublime, special, holy day where we can actually connect body and soul. We can actually access some very hidden, seemingly inaccessible great lights that lie deep beneath every Yiddish neshama. Now we know that Pesach, we're celebrating freedom. Pesach, we leave Egypt. It's a Yitzia Lecheres. And we're celebrating freedom not just as simply being liberated and being able to unshackle ourselves from the yoke of Egyptian bondage, but freedom, true freedom, comes with responsibility. We're marching towards Shavuos, and Shavuos is where we become servants of Hashem. We accept the Torah. The mountains put on top of us, and Hashem says, either you accept the Torah or you're crushed. So we understand that freedom without responsibility is really no freedom at all. It's meaningless. Avodai heim, you're my servants, Hashem says. I'll be eshbar moitos ulchem, I will break the yoke of your servitude to your Yetzer Hara, to the Mitzrayim, to the Mitzrayim, the little Egypt, and now you'll be able to serve me. And when we serve Hashem, we have a pasuk that it's a different kind of servitude. Ivdu es Hashem, serve Hashem, what's the next word? Besimcha, with joy. Now, to us again, it would seem that if I'm a servant, and I'm obligated, and I can't exercise my freedom, and I'm stripped of my democratic rights, then I am confined, contained. I'm an eved, I'm unhappy. But we understand that servitude with responsibility actually complements one another. They're not incongruous, they complement one another. Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, I can serve Hashem with joy. And as we make the journey from Pesach to Shavuos, what we are essentially doing is stepping into that zone of acceptance of Torah, of becoming avodim to Hashem with joy, in a perfect complementary way. We know there are 49 days from Pesach to Shavuos, corresponding to the 7 Sefiras. 49 is alluded to in the words Leiv Tov, a good heart. There were 5 students to Reb Shimon, to Reb Yochanan ben Zakkai, and he said, go out and see what is a good pathway, he told the students, that a man should yavar by, that should choose for himself. How is a pathway always is finding a balance, a derech habeinoni? And he said, Rabbi Loza ben Aroch, his 5th student, said, Leiv Tov, and he said, a good heart. Rabbi Loza said, the most important thing, the most important character trait that we can have is a good heart. Leiv is 32, Tov is 17. In total, we have 49. And after the 32, the commentaries say that Leiv Tov tells us something very, very deep. Very deep. We all want to have a good heart. The Leiv, to reveal the inner heart, to be sensitive, empathetic, goodness, bring out the inner sense of the heart, feel the heartstrings of another Jew. To reveal the heart, we have to have good midos, good character. We've got to break through the ego and the I. And those are essentially the first 32 days of the Omer. The second part of the Omer reflects the Tov, which is the inner goodness, Ein Tov Ela Torah. we are preparing, and we are feeling in that last third of the Sefira Omer, we are connecting to the light at the end of the tunnel. We're connecting to actually hearing, accepting, and allowing to penetrate God's will, God's desire. First, we're stepping out of the body, we're preparing our heart, and then we are connecting to the echoes of Sinai, to the word of Hashem. And I'll explain this a little bit. If we think about it, Lag BaOmer, historically, has two reasons behind the celebration. Of course, we're familiar that Lag BaOmer is all about the death of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. It's the yard site of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Now, normally on a yard site, you would imagine the yard site meaning the day of his passing.
What about his death? Like, did he have how did he die? Anyway?
What was significant about his death? Well, that's precisely the cause of celebration for Lag BaOmer, because we are told that on the day of his death, he revealed great secrets. We attribute the Zohar to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. We know it was written by Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. The esoteric, hidden secrets of Torah. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai was the primary student of Rabbi Akiva. We said yesterday or the day before. And Rabbi Akiva, who died al Kiddush Hashem, was the master of Torah Shabal Peh, the oral law. Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the written law, the Torah Shabiksav. And Rabbi Akiva gave us the oral law, that which is transferred mouth to mouth, which can't be actually seen in writing, and it can be conceptualized. It can be you get it through a process of breaking down and breaking through walls in order to figure out what it's all about. Rabbi Akiva only started at the age of 40, and he himself, as the Gemara tells us, was from the Nishmas Gerim. He came from a family of proselytes. He came to Torah on his own. He broke through barriers of darkness in order to reveal the inner light of Torah. The Torah Shabiksav, the written law, that is the revealed part of the law, which we can see and grasp in its simplest sense. And then there's a Torah Shabal Peh. Rabbi Akiva is the master of Torah Shabal Peh. The Gemara tells us in Shabbos that when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Shemayim to receive the Torah from Hashem, and he prepared himself to receive the Torah, Hashem gave it to him as a gift. That's the written law. He presented it to him. And Moshe Rabbeinu, as he was receiving the Torah from Hashem, he saw on the big screen up there in Shemayim all future generations. And he came into the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Akiva. And he was watching Rabbi Akiva teaching Torah, and Rabbi Akiva was expounding on every koitzoi shel yud, on the little crowns of the letters, tili tilim shel halachos, mounds and mounds of laws. And he was teaching his students this hidden part of being able to access and reveal and plumb the depths of Torah in an entirely different manner. He had just basic code, and he was constructing the code through the 13 principles through which the oral law is expounded. He's constructing the code and coming to the source and revealing God's will through an entirely different pattern, from inside the prison coming to the out, so to speak. Through the body, through the material concepts and theories through which we expound the Torah, the oral law. And Hashem looks at Moshe, Moshe looks at Hashem. Moshe is chol shodaita. He says, I wish I could have a portion in that Torah. And Hashem showed him, no, don't worry. There was a question that one of the students asked Rabbi Akiva, Minayin l'chazeh, from where do you know this? And Rabbi Akiva said, that is halacha l'Moshe miSinai. That we hear directly from Sinai. And what Hashem was showing Rabbi Akiva was, what he was showing Moshe Rabbeinu was that the Torah of Rabbi Akiva, the hidden oral law, is dependent on the written law. And the written law can only be actualized and revealed through the oral law. They both complement one another. Rabbi Akiva reveals the oral law. And his student, Reb Shimon, when does it become real? When is it there for posterity? When is there a legacy of Rabbi Akiva's teachings? When his student gives it over for future generations. And Reb Shimon Bar Yochai was the one who was capable, able to actually give it over to us. He revealed to us and gave us access and a pathway to the hidden chambers of Torah, to the Lev Tov. You know, inside each and every one of us, there's a beautiful light, beautiful glory, inner goodness, inner greatness. There's a soul that, when unleashed, has incredible power. That light can emanate and shine forth from each and every one of us. And in order for it to shine forth, we need to unite two elements, two opposing elements. We need to unite the power of the light, the goodness, the love, the chesed, the kindness, and we have to temper it with gvura, with discipline, with responsibility. When the Jewish people came out of Egypt, they experienced an incredible light. Laila kayom yo'er. The night shone like the day. Their souls shone forth. There was incredible romance and love. They went into the wilderness, infatuated with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, completely oblivious to Seichel. And then they had to work through the body, demonstrate constraint, restraint, this 49 days, to temper it, because the light will just dissipate. It's like a plane. In order for it to lift off the ground, there's a tremendous amount of thrust, energy, power, but it has pistons. It has to have a frame in order for the power and thrust to be meaningful. Otherwise, it just fizzles. And so we have an incredible light inside of us, a soul. But that light can only be accessed when we take the body, which is like the piston, it's like the restrainer, it's like the prison, and we allow the light to shine through the body. We tame the body, we prepare the body so that the light can shine through. So on the one hand, we're emphasizing the light, the lave, the goodness, the kindness, the giving, the moda, the thanks. We see Hashem's bounty and goodness everywhere. We are thanking Him. But it's really only accessible when we can tame the instincts, when we can be moda and recognize our shiflus and our dalus. I want to bring out to you a point which is very important for us to understand in order to appreciate what Lag BaOmer is. Lag BaOmer marks two significant milestones and events in Jewish history. One of them is, on the day of Lag BaOmer, the Gemara tells us that the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, 24,000 Talmidim, we talked about it on Sunday, 24,000 Talmidim died in this period, and they stopped dying on Lag BaOmer. On the 33rd day of the Omer, the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva stopped dying. And then we're celebrating the death of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, which was the primary Talmud, the continuum of Rabbi Akiva and his legacy. And the day of his passing was marked by a great revelation of tremendous light. His students stood around him and he imparted to them great secrets, Sisrei Torah. An incredible light filled the room. Now, when we look at these two events, let's contemplate and think about these two events because they seem to be completely contradictory. On the one hand, we're marking the great light of Torah that was revealed on the day of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai's death, Lag BaOmer. And that great light, everything that we experience in history, has reverberations. Nothing just dissipates in the spiritual world. Everything in the spiritual world is nitzchi. It's invested as an energy that we can access in time. So the day of Lag BaOmer is a day when we can connect to the hidden light that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai revealed. And at the same time, it's a day when the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died. Why did they die? They died because lo nohagu kavod zeh lezeh. They didn't give respect and honor and appreciation to one another. And if we think about it, really, we will see that here unites two opposite concepts, two seemingly different concepts. We have the Tov of Torah that was revealed by Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, and we have the Lev, the heart, the working through the character. The Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva the world had learned the lesson of the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, and they both complement one another. There's a Lev Tov. We're celebrating Lag BaOmer, and really it's a day that should be marked with great mourning. It's like the day when all the 24,000 Talmidim, there was no Talmidim left. It's like a Holocaust. The Gemara describes V'haya ha'olam shomim. The world was in a state of spiritual desolation. We think about these 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva. These weren't ordinary people. These were people, we talked about it. They left everything behind and followed Rabbi Akiva wherever he went. They hung on to his every word. They were willing to divorce themselves of all physical pleasures because they were connected to Rabbi Akiva, the source of light. That was their oxygen. These were great people. So really, it would seem to us that this is a very tragic day. The day when Pasku Lamos, the day they stopped dying. But we understand that the day we stop dying is the day that life begins. It's the day that we've learned the lesson. Chamisha Asa B'Av, on the 15th of Av, it's a day of great joy. Why is it the day of great joy? Because it was the day that Pasku Meisei Midbar, all those that sinned and were connected to the sin of the spies, stopped dying. That's great. The wheel has turned to the bottom, now it's going to begin turning around to the top. The lesson has been learned. We can start afresh. A new beginning begins. And the light of Reb Shimon, the primary student of Rabbi Akiva, after all his students died, is beginning to shine. This world is a cycle. All life emerges because a seed is put in the ground, it begins to rot, and then new life emerges, goodness emerges, light emerges, life emerges. And so too within ourselves. The light, the inner goodness emerges because there is a moda. We're acknowledging, identifying, recognizing our shortcomings, the things that we're missing. Some people think I can come close to Hashem. I just feel good. Come, we'll make a kumzitz, we'll sit together and we'll sing and everything is great. We're just connected. We want to be connected without responsibility. But in truth, if we want to have a really good kumzitz, first we have to sit down and think about all the things that we're missing and lacking and we're short on. We have to recognize our dalus. We have to accept upon ourselves avdus. We have to acknowledge and recognize where we're going to make the light of the soul shine through our body. And then we can access the inner light and it will shine through. But if we're just accessing the inner light, it dissipates. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, if we think about it, was able to, gave us and afforded us an ability to see and recognize the lowliness of our body, to harness it and bring forth the inner light. Has anybody ever been in Meron on Lag BaOmer? You've been there? There's an incredible phenomena. Anybody who's been there, outside the Ma'ara, outside the cave, there is great rejoicing. People are barbecuing. There's just like incredible happiness, simcha. You step into the Ma'ara, into the cave where he is buried, and there's crying and davening, and it's serious. Did you see that?
Yeah. I didn't get all the way in.
You didn't get all the way in. It was too crushing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's taking place. A real Jew is feeling, the Chassid, the Chefetz always says, Evloi bifnim sahalase befonav. There is joy on his face, and there is crying in the inner chambers. Deep inside of us, every Jew knows, in the heart of hearts, deep, deep, deep inside of us, Leiv Yodea Moras Nafshe. If we're good Jews, we have good Jewish guilt. And we see inside of us, I'm lacking, I'm missing, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And on the outside, we're supposed to be happy and joyous and purveying positivity and goodness and love of our fellow Jew. Now, how do the two come together? Either we're in a state of avelus, we're mourning over our shortcomings, or we're happy. There's a Leiv Yodea Moras Nafshe, the heart. And in our innermost hearts, in our innermost chambers, we see Hashem very clearly. We're very short. And then there's on the outside, there's tov, there's goodness, there's positivity, there's happiness. And Rav Shimon, let's read the Gemara in Shabbos, because I think it's all on Daf Lamed Gimel. Everything about Rav Shimon Bar Yochai is all hidden. It's fascinating. Do you know what the 33rd word in the Torah is?
Lev.
Not Lev. Tov. Hashem saw the light that it is good. Tov. The 33rd day after Lev is Tov. We start revealing the real goodness, because we've broken through the body. We've accessed our shiflus, our lowliness. We recognize our shortcomings. And now the light of Torah, the light of goodness can shine through. It's very fascinating. We have a pasuk in Mitzvah. Everything about Lag BaOmer is hidden, but there's a pasuk in Mitzvah that talks about the Zav, when a man contracts impurity, and there flows from his body an emission, which brings about to him a state of real impurity. We don't have it today, but it's called Zivus. Zav, there flows forth from him an emission which demonstrates he's impure, and he has to go through a process of purity. And the Torah describes in Mitzvah all the laws of the Zav, and what when he touches it, things that he touches that contract impurity. It's at the beginning of chapter 15 in Vayikra, and it goes through many different laws that are unique to the Zav. And then it tells us, the Torah tells us, V'chiyita hazav mizova. At the end of the parasha, there are 49 words. 3 psukim, 49 words. And it talks about the process of his cleansing and clearing this impurity. V'chiyita hazav mizova. When it came the time for the man to pure himself from his discharge. V'sof aloi shivas yomim, he has to count 7 days. Come to l'taharasi, which all lead to his absolute purity. And then he washes his clothes and he cleans his flesh. All the things that the Jewish people did before they accepted the Torah. B'mayim chayim v'toyer. In order, it had to be with pure, clean water, living waters, v'toyer, and then he's pure. All these things in the Kabbalistic world allude to the Sefira and to our preparation for the purity of Sinai. But the 33rd word, you know what the 33rd word of these 49 words is? Moed. He has to come to the oil Moed. Moed, festival. And the Sforim tell us that Moed, the festival, is the 33rd day. There's a great festivity on that Moed, on that when he arrives at the Ohel Moed, the place of meeting, and he can realize a state of purity. Lag BaOmer is a Yom Moed. It's a very great day of festivity, but it's not in the traditional sense a Moed, in the written Torah, in the written law of the festivals that are transcribed for us in the Torah. It reveals the hidden part, the Torah Shabbal Peh, that carries us through the Golus, through the darkness of Golus. Is fascinating, but in our yeshiva world, really speaking, if you think about it, we should be studying Torah. We should be studying Nach. We should be studying the written law. Isn't that more important than the Gemara? And yet most of our day is spent poring over the Gemara, where most of the discussion is completely unrelated to our day-to-day life. It's obscure. Yet we understand that Torah Shebal Peh, the oral law, is how we break through the darkness of Golus, the challenge of the body. It allows us to access the light that is hidden. Today we don't have the Ohel Moed. We don't have a Beis HaMikdash. We don't see Hashem's light revealed in an open way. And so our process through the Golus is the Torah of Rabbi Akiva and the Torah of Shimon Bar Yochai, which is why Lag BaOmer is such a great celebration. About 500,000 Jews flock to Moran on Lag BaOmer. It's just amazing. The security apparatus in Israel prepare for weeks